One role up for grabs in the country's midterm elections is the mayor of Davao City in the south, and that's been won by former President Rodrigo Duterte. But there is just one problem. He's currently detained in The Hague. And early results appear to also bode well for his daughter and the Vice-President, Sara Duterte. Let's cross to Manila now, and I'm joined by political analyst Richard Heydarian. Richard, good to have you with us. Again, this is quite the story for Rodrigo Duterte. It's clear he's supremely popular in his home city. So a lot of us are scratching our heads. How was it possible that he was in the running, and with the fact that he's now behind bars for now, and how will that city be run without a mayor?
Well, I think the running joke right now is work from Hague, not work from home. Because last time I checked, Rodrigo Duterte will most likely spend the rest of his life either in detention or in trial at The Hague, based on my conversation with legal experts and other relevant folks at The Hague just the other month when I visited there. So that's the running joke. So how this is going to work is that the vice mayor, who's the son, Sebastian Duterte, will most likely take over. And then the vice mayor will be taken from the councillors. And guess what? The name of the councillor who will take over vice mayor is Rodrigo Duterte II. And then the congressman also is going to be another Duterte, Paulo Duterte. So it was a slam dunk for the Duterte family. I think what we saw in these elections is that Ferdinand Marcos Jr. went for gold, took out the patriarch of the family, basically to the ICC, but he failed in terms of follow-through. There was no speech, no effort to rally the nation, legitimize or justify that decision. So what happened was there was a full consolidation of support behind the Dutertes. In fact, it's not only Davao City, Manila City, one of the most prominent cities, Baguio City, where I come from, one of the biggest cities in the north of the country, Cebu City, the second largest city in the country. Most of these have been won by opposition or even Duterte-friendly elements. So this is not just a Davao, Mindanao, Southern Philippines phenomenon. All across the country, they have done well. In the senatorial race, 12 seats were up for grabs. Up to 5 may go to Duterte-aligned candidates. This was an amazing performance by the Duterte camp, but this was also a great performance for progressive and liberals. 2 of their candidates ended up in top 5 in defiance of all surveys. In the party list, a progressive Social Democratic Party, Akbayan, was #1 in the entire country. So it was 50 shades of surprises and uncertainties that this election is going to create.
Yeah, so the Senate will vote whether to impeach Sara Duterte later on. So how do the results of the Senate now look for Sara Duterte? And is it likely or more likely or not that she'll be impeached?
It is less likely. I think if you look at the numbers, on official numbers, even some of the lines that are coming up from the administration-aligned candidates, they're already beginning to soft pedal. Remember, to convict Sara Duterte, she's already impeached by the Congress. So it's similar to the U.S. The Congress can impeach you, but the actual trial is going to be at the Senate. Out of 24, all the Duterte camp need are 8 individuals to block a conviction. I think she easily will get that 8. The concern right now is that she might have even more than 8 supporters because they have done so well. So a lot of senators who have ambitions down the road in 2028 and looking around and seeing Marcos, House of Marcos potentially sinking, they're already soft pedaling. So we may not even see a trial. So a lot will depend on the few independent-minded and progressive senators to really push the envelope and do the heavy lifting. Otherwise, just like Donald Trump last year in the U.S., we're going to see a comeback story for another controversial populist family in the case of the Philippines.
So as far as the swing towards the Dutertes are concerned, was the extradition of Rodrigo Duterte to The Hague, a big factor in how the voters decided to vote against the president?
Absolutely. The president got hammered on 2 sides, right? So on one hand, what happened is that the liberal progressive opposition hammered him on issues of accountability, good governance, issues with the budget of the government, supposed mishandling and corruption. On the other hand, the Duterte camp essentially had the rallying around the flag moment. Like the patriarch was kidnapped, quote unquote. So we have to stick together and we have to fight so that we can protect the daughter, Sara Duterte, the heir apparent. Otherwise, she's going to get impeached. So those two elements came together, and that's why the administration was essentially squeezed in the middle. Having said that, a lot of local government officials that won were aligned with the administration. So if Marcos Jr. steps it up, if he's willing to go for gold or go for broke, I think he can still put together something to keep the Dutertes in check. But if Marcos Jr. is going to remain as diffident and indecisive, he's going to look for potential retribution in the coming years, if not becoming a total lame duck in the coming years.
So, Richard, has this been an election of personality above policies here?
Interestingly, I would say it was paradoxical on two levels. First of all, a lot of washed-up celebrities who treat the Senate as a kind of a retirement home, they lost big time, big time. So this is one of those elections where many celebrities lost, which is quite historic. The other thing is that this was an elections when really the candidates didn't go after each other, whether on the China-US South China Sea issue, whether on ICC issue. Everyone played positive, and yet opposition won. Usually opposition wins when they go on the offensive. So a lot of paradoxical elements to these elections. But to be honest, I want to see the exit polls, because this was one election whereby millennials, my generation, and Gen Zs were the majority of voters, almost 6 out of 10. I want to understand the psyche of voters, particularly the Gen Zs, because they may explain why we got this wide range of different iterations of the opposition doing so well, and why so many celebrities did not make it. Manny Pacquiao, the world champion, the most known Filipino, he's barely in top 20 in the Senate. He was hammered in this election. So many big celebrities failed in these elections, which tell you maybe the Philippines is going also through an iteration in terms of voter preference.
Yes, millennials and Gen Z voters have made quite the change in many elections around the world in recent months, including here in Australia. But, I want to know, how do these midterms reflect on the president? I know that the presidential elections are years away, but would this have any bearing for Ferdinand Marcos Jr. when he goes up for re-election?
Well, he's just confined to 1 6-year term, right? So we had a horrible experience with his dad, Marcos Sr. He used re-election to create his own dictatorship. So we only have 1 term. So for Marcos Jr., this is about making sure Dutertes don't come back, because if they come back, it's retribution time. Absolutely. And as far as we can see, Marcos doesn't have a strong preferred candidate. The only candidates who could beat maybe Sara Duterte are people who are not also necessarily aligned with him. So at this point in time, Marcos' best chance is to get a coalition together to impeach Sara Duterte. And if he fails to do that, he's going to be quite in trouble.
Yes. And finally, voting isn't compulsory in the Philippines, but this is the first time that online voting has been done. How's the uptake been, and has it at all changed the dynamics of an election in the Philippines?
Yeah, I mean, I followed the Australian elections also very much. I mean, you guys got it mandatory. That's quite interesting. We got very high turnout, even if it's not mandatory. I think it's just a political culture. I think India, South Asia, Latin America, they have similar culture to us, that, there's tremendous amount of cultural capital and investment and emotional investment. Not to mention, many people make a lot of money. It's an economy, right? People printing stuff, spreading tarpaulins and stuff. So, no, this is a cultural phenomenon for us. Everyone was invested in these elections in one way or another. Very high turnout, including among Gen Zs. But as I said, everyone wants change in the Philippines. I think that was the message here. The return of Marcos was a desperate call for change. It didn't work out. Now they're looking for different version, whether it's a progressive liberal, whether it's another Duterte. So I think it's a question of which variation of populism or which variation of change are we looking at. But the turnout is very high. And as I said, I want to look at the exit polls before I make more definitive statements, because at this point in time, it's more like educated guess.
Yes, much like the Philippines and Australia, great to have a politically engaged electorate. Richard Heydarian, always good to have you on the program. Thank you so much.
As always.